Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar on planning for your 100-year lifespan. I'm Lisette Smith, and I'm here with Tanya Rapaz.
Welcome to our webinar. We're really excited to share this information with you. Thanks for joining.
We are both senior advisors to our personal wealth clients here at the advisory group. Thank you for joining us today. We hope that this is a very thought-provoking look at the possibilities of a 100-year lifespan.
Today, we want to talk to you about what it will mean as our lifespans more consistently reach 100 years and how that affects our financial planning. We're going to talk about increasing our health span at the same time, what this means for your work-life trajectory, and how this impacts your financial planning. Today, we are going to cover why you think you need to be planning for a longer lifespan, what challenges and opportunities this longer life expectancy represents, and what solutions exist and what you can do now.
So some of our clients, when we talk about should we plan for 100 years, are kind of incredulous. Like, they don't want to plan that long. They don't really even think they'll live to be in their 90s. But what researchers have found that sets the current centenarians apart is the evidence of why we see that more of us will reach this milestone in the future. So there's really 4 basic wellness habits: managing stress, eating right, not smoking, and exercising regularly, that researchers have found extend your life and have people be able to live into the triple digits. One thing that's left off that list is being a woman. 85% of current American centenarians are women. So in addition to advances in health and fitness, there's really just this new era of medical discovery that will change our health in the years to come. Mapping the human genome is primary among them, and the use of CRISPR technology for gene editing has really been a revolutionary change. The gene editing can prevent a host of genetic diseases: sickle cell anemia, muscular dystrophy, cystic fibrosis, and maybe more importantly, the treatment of some age-related diseases, including Alzheimer's. And the technology itself can slow accumulation of cell damage that causes aging. And it's been shown to extend lifespan in mice, for example, by 25%, as well as increasing their strength as they age.
Wow.
So that is a really impressive, and we're kind of just on the cusp of that now. Another important development is in personalized medicine and immunotherapies, especially for cancer treatment. Cancer treatment that uses one's own immune system to target only cancer cells and leaving healthy cells alone is something that has developed quickly over the last several years. Other medical technologies, better imaging and bionic limbs that can be managed from an iPad, for example, help not only with quality of life, but those types of things can be precursors to aging more rapidly. And really, there's a whole science. Geroscience is a field that looks into the biology of aging and age-related diseases with the goal of heading them off as a group, not just one by one, but really looking at what needs to happen to address many causes of aging at once. And the impact of artificial intelligence on medical research is really right now mostly used for speed and accuracy of analyzing images and performing diagnosis, but also will be used more in clinical research as we analyze large amounts of data, and it's anticipated to really revolutionize the speed at which new developments can occur. One of the interesting things that this slide is showing us is how demographics have changed over time. And we're really moving from a period when people's ages are becoming more evenly divided over the decades. So it's not a pyramid as it was previously, with fewer people achieving older ages, but more of a rectangle with similar numbers of people in each age group. So what this is showing is, like, in 1955, as the baby boomers were kind of just entering the population, you can see that it's starting to change. There's a bigger group at those are kind of the darker brown levels at the bottom of that graph. And over time, as those people have moved through the decades, that has resulted in more of this rectangular shape. And the result is that we anticipate that by 2060, more than a quarter of the US population is going to be over the age of 65, which is really dramatically different than how it was in the mid-century. And one of the outcomes of this is that the phases of life are being stretched out more as well. So what we're really looking to do is just not tack on another 30 years to the end of our lives, but be living more fully throughout that time period. So what we're already seeing is more people over the age of 60 in the workforce, for example. And the growth of the older workforce is a really identifiable change. So just in the last 20 years, or between 2000 and 2020, the percentage of people over 60 in the workforce has doubled. The change has been from 7.4% of the population to almost 15%. And that's even greater among women in that demographic. Overall, in 2023, about 20% of those over 65 were employed. So that's a big change from past generations. Just generally, also, we see trends in people marrying later. The average now is 30 for men and 28 for women. In 1950, it was 23 for men and 20 for women. So really dramatic change. Having children later, first-time mothers, the age for the average first-time mother is 27 in 2024, and it was 24 in 1940. And then some more economic changes. So people buy homes later. The average age in 2022 was at age 36, and it was age 30 in 1970. So it kind of makes sense that our working lives extend longer too, but we want to allow for breaks along the way. But there are a lot of changes that the 100-year lifespan will bring.
All right. This graph is about longevity. The National Institute of Health tells us that from the year 2000 to the year 2019, average longevity for Americans went up 2.9 years. But that information masks a lot of differences in different demographic groups. So for our clients, we use this data to kind of break out for clients who don't smoke and who have access to excellent health care, who have access to clean air, of good food. They are probably going to be living far in excess of just the regular 50% average life expectancy that you might find in insurance tables. I'd also kind of like to acknowledge two important changes to this data. One is that there are some demographic groups where life expectancy is actually going down for reasons that we're not going to get into in this webinar. There are some certain slices of the American population because of poverty, substance abuse and mental health are actually seeing slight dips in mental health. And according to some data from the CDC, the year 2020 is the first year where that is going to be very evident in the data. Of course, the pandemic is one of the reasons for that as well. But for many people that we work with, we use this information to show that your chances of living to be far in excess of the averages that you frequently hear about for American women and American men would not get you as far as you would if you need to make sure that you are not going to be outliving your portfolio or your stream of income. So if whether you're single or a couple, you need to be planning for these much longer life expectancies. So we've been talking a lot about lifespan, but really just adding and tacking on years to your life might not sound that appealing. As Lisette kind of said at the beginning of the webinar, when we tell our clients that we're using life expectancies into the 90s, some clients kind of recoil at that notion. They universally say they don't want to live until their 90s. They envision the 90-year-old they know and think about how they might be a little bit limited in their possibilities. But what if 90 becomes the new 70? Sometime where you have some years on you, but you're still vibrant, still strong, still working. The reality is that with making some changes now, or starting to change your mindset, thinking about ways in which you could take this lifespan, which now is going to be going possibly up to as much as 100 years or more, and try to take that 6 span part and make it as small as possible by keeping your good health. There's a book that we kind of all read together by Dr. Peter Attia called Outlive, where he suggests that preventing the 4 major illnesses that shorten lifespans are what make the end of life what we consider to be like the classic aging: long hospital stays, illnesses, weakness, cognitive decline. And he suggested setting yourself up to compete in what he calls the centenarian decathlon. In fact, that book and that passage may have even given us the germ of the idea for this webinar. If more and more people are going to be living to 100, is that a good thing? And how do you make it that it is? So the centenarian decathlon is that you think about things that you would still want to be doing as you get older and older, and think about what would you be needing to do now to make that possible. So if you still want to be able to walk briskly up a hill, go for hikes, pick up your grandchildren, put your suitcase into the overhead storage bin on an airplane, what kind of training do you need to be keeping up to make sure that that still goes?
And part of what all of the thought about the 100-year lifespan points to is that a new course is needed to navigate that time period that's more flexible and has multiple stages. So the way it traditionally worked is that over your lifespan, you would spend your early years learning and then start to work and earn and spend that time saving for your retirement to accumulate enough for retirement, and then move into retirement where you might try to give back or at least recharge for yourself. And that was a very linear model. But what's envisioned for the future, and in much of the research and literature talking about the 100-year lifespan, is a model where people really move in and out of these phases throughout their life, so that you can kind of change that trajectory to have opportunities for people to experience purpose and belonging and worth at all stages of their life, and experience careers that are much longer. So not necessarily less ability to accumulate the assets you'll need, but being able to take breaks and pivot along the way. So here we kind of show those 2 different models, one a very linear learn, earn, and return, and the new model where there's some flow in and out of different stages, so that the 100 years is a flow of activity.
So what aspects of personal financial planning will be impacted by this change? And the answer is really all of them. In the next couple of slides, we're going to be talking about all the aspects of financial planning where you're going to need to be a little bit more mindful about how you handle cash, debt, savings, investing, how you look at your home, what choices you might make for Social Security, how you'll think about streams of income, insurance, and housing. But let's start with the next slide where we'll talk about being a little bit more mindful about cash flow and savings. So if the last model is going to be the new reality, I've heard it described by some people as more the Hollywood project model, where you might work on something for a little while, earn some money, and then take a break rather than working straight through and then retiring. The traditional idea of just starting to work and saving for retirement might be enough. Saving until age 65 and then living that off that plus Social Security until you are 100 may not give you the lifestyle you want or may not be achievable at all. So it's important to, as early as possible, start thinking about ways that you can accumulate as much cash as possible for your own flexibility and your own ability to fund your different lifestyle needs at different stages of life in a way that is where the funds will be accessible to you at you need them without any specific tax disadvantages. Thinking now about ways to keep your lifestyle flexible by keeping your fixed costs low. Not racking up too much debt, of course, very important. Thinking about your investments. If you're going to be retiring much later, one of the benefits of that is that certain investments that you have will be able to benefit from compound growth because you've earmarked those for the long term, and they will be able to grow over a much longer time period. But you're not just saving for retirement, you're saving for different goals that might have much shorter time horizons. So you're going to have to be very mindful about thinking about different places where you might be able to put your cash that is accessible to you and where the time horizon matches up with your goal. Also thinking about the way different types of investment accounts and retirement accounts are taxed. We frequently talk to our clients about having money in different buckets because Roth money, tax deferred money, and taxable money all have different tax advantages and disadvantages. And you want to make sure that you are well aware of the different qualities because each has a role to play in your portfolio. If you need any taxable savings, so for example, if you're making some withdrawals before distribution, before your regular distribution age, that can certainly be something important to you. Required minimum distribution ages for your tax deferred accounts have recently gone up, and that I think is a little bit of an acknowledgement about our longer lifespans. And keeping liquid savings or Roth savings as part of your flexible strategy, money that can be accessed, as long as you know the certain rules about the 5-year rule, can be very helpful to you in terms of putting a plan together that works for you at every stage and make sure that you have what you need to fund even a longer period out of the workforce because you plan for it in advance. And then, of course, there's the use of home equity, which we'll talk about more on the next slide.
So one of the changes we see is that both Gen X and the baby boomers who came before them, the idea of downsizing is changing, and empty nesters still owning large houses to accommodate sandwich generation issues. So kids that stay at home longer or move back in, and parents who may move back in or move in with them when they need help. So they're not necessarily downsizing. Actually, more than a third, about 38% of Gen Xers plan to stay in their homes forever, according to a Census Bureau data, and as do more than half of baby boomers. And you can kind of see why this would be true, because it makes some financial sense, since many people, the costs are lower to stay where they are. They have lower rates, or maybe even have paid off a mortgage. But if they do have a mortgage and downsize, with interest rates where they are, their payments may still end up being higher. So many people are really staying put. And there is some indication for Gen Xers that they're starting to look, even as early as in their 50s, to look for homes that they can age into. And they do this really while they're still at their peak earning power and looking for what could be their forever home, changing what that looks like. So looking for maybe a house without stairs and with amenities like pools or hiking trails, pickleball courts. And for many, this might also just mean accommodating the multi-generational housing. So it might not be something smaller necessarily, but just something that's what they are looking for in a forever home. And we see this actually, almost 20% of Gen X new purchases in 2023 were for multi-generational homes. So homes that they plan to maybe age with. There were some changes during the pandemic, and it may be a little early to say how it's going to play out entirely, but with jobs not being, or where you live not being as tied to jobs, and younger generations looking for housing in lower cost communities, it's likely that their parents who have had to work closer to jobs in the past may follow them to these lower cost communities. In terms of how to access home equity, though, if people do need to access home equity in these homes, it's really can be challenging without downsizing. You can do reverse mortgages, but there are limits on how much you can borrow and what. So to some, the terms of those reverse mortgages are not as attractive. So for those that need to access home equity, selling and downsizing is still an option. In terms of cash flow during retirement and thinking about how to best use Social Security, we wanted to just touch on this because it can be an important source of income during retirement. And for those, when we think about longer lifespans, it's important to keep some of this in mind. So really, for most people, when we look at expected longevity, which is along the x-axis here, it really doesn't make sense in terms of maximizing your lifetime Social Security benefits to claim your benefits at age 62. In fact, if you look kind of in this purple space, it really, if you expect your life expectancy to be age 77 or older, you would be kind of leaving money on the table to start taking Social Security benefits. It's really only if you have some reason to believe you have a very short life expectancy that you would claim your benefits at 62. Then there's kind of this strip of time from age 77 to 81 at different annual expected rates of return. But where it makes sense to claim at full retirement age. But for most people, if you expect to live over around age 81, and we can do this more precisely for people, you're really better off waiting and claiming Social Security benefits at age 70. And this really, applies to people who have enough taxable income, or I'm sorry, who have enough savings that they can cover this phase when they're not getting Social Security. We don't want you to impede your lifestyle during that period, but assuming you have other assets to draw on, and say those assets are in the 5% range of what you would be using alternatively, for most people, you would want to claim to wait until age 70 to claim your Social Security benefits, and that will maximize how much you get over time, because you get kind of a built-in return for claiming. The amount of the benefit goes up, and so even though you have given up 3 years of benefits during that period, you would still maximize it over the course of your lifetime because of the higher amounts you will be getting beginning at age 70.
Right, the math is very compelling.
Yes.
But still, most people claim earlier than 70.
Right, and I think it's not as clear that if they have that age 81 in mind, that might change people's decisions about that. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. Oh, sorry. Oh no, sorry. Let me go back.
Social Security.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That's right. This is the right place.
Yeah.
Social Security has 2 important features. You can never outlive that stream of income, and it has a cost of living adjustment. And if one or the other of those are of concern to you, and you have some of your assets in a qualified retirement plan, you may want to start learning about qualified longevity annuity contracts, or QLACs. They're not widely adopted. They have become a little bit more attractive since the Secure Act 2.0. The QLAC is a retirement strategy where you take a little bit of the money that is in your deferred plan, and you basically use it to buy an annuity within your planned account. And that the amount that is in the QLAC is not subject to RMDs, and you are then able to defer taking out that money and to a date in the future, but no later than age 85. And then you're kind of able to manage that so that your taxes are deferred, lowering these required minimum distributions, also known as RMDs, can also be used to keep your Medicare premiums from being subject to IRMA, which is an additional surcharge that is put on your Medicare premiums based on your adjusted gross income. QLACs are available for purchase from many insurance companies. So if you comparison shop with the help of an unbiased advisor, you may also be able to find one that is right for you, has an inflation rider, and can make sure that you don't outlive the money that is in your retirement account. Women, independent women, might especially want to look at this because of their especially longer life expectancies. Some of the drawbacks about this, though, are once you go down this road, you lose all the flexibility with that particular pile of cash. You can no longer withdraw it as a lump sum. And of course, it was purchasing any annuity. You're banking on the strength of your insurer. So it's very important to buy something that is highly rated. But if you have the means and you are worried about outliving your funds, this can be, as part of an overall strategy that includes many other aspects, can be something for you to look into.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No problem. Another strategy you can consider, especially if you are in your 50s, is looking at long-term care insurance to cover one of the costs that we haven't really touched upon yet in this webinar, which is what would happen if your health were to decline and you needed to have care above and beyond what you could receive just at home from family members, and you needed an insurance policy that was going to provide for care at a facility or enhanced care at home. We put together this slide. We got this data from our insurance advisor, showing how even if your health does not change at all, if you wait until your 60s to buy a policy that you could have purchased in your 50s, the price, the accumulated price of the premiums is so much higher. So we took the same policy and looked at it in two different ways. And I can see that there's a few typos in the column. If you contact me after this webinar, I can send you an updated copy of this to show that if you are looking for a monthly benefit of about $10,000, it would be so much more expensive if you waited until age 65. So if this is a kind of policy that you think would be beneficial to you, it is much more beneficial to you to shop for it while you're still in your 50s. I'm sorry. Just in kind of on the same topic, for two people, they could expect to see a 49.9% increase in cost if they delayed purchasing together. And unfortunately, the cost of waiting goes up. People who are 75 or older may not be able to get insurance at all, regardless of their particular health status.
Yeah, that is dramatic, the differences there. When it comes to looking at your estate planning, we really recommend, we know that it is not on the top of everyone's list of things that they want to take care of, but if done correctly, it really is such a benefit to your heirs and the people that will be left behind. So we just wanted to give this kind of shout out about making it easier for your heirs by including letters of instruction, which really help to organize not only how you want your assets to go, but more information about how you want things to be distributed and what your passwords and other ways to access your information. So the things that you will need during your lifetime include making sure that you've appointed a power of attorney who can act on financial matters if you're not able to do that, and including a healthcare directive to help those responsible for your care if you're not able to communicate it, to make decisions about what you would want or not want in terms of your healthcare or extraordinary measures. All of, just getting basic health estate planning in place includes a will, which in many cases, if you also have a trust, The will is, even though the will may be public, your trust wouldn't be. So in many cases, we encourage people to have a will, but really make provisions for distribution of assets through their trust, which allows for more privacy and to avoid probate. Some things do not go through your will or your trust, and it's really important that you name beneficiaries to things like your retirement plans and life insurance policies, because that is how those assets will be distributed. So no matter what is said in your trust about how you want things distributed, what you have named as beneficiaries in those type of accounts is what will happen with those.
Lisette, did you see this story in the Wall Street Journal about the man who hadn't updated his 401k plan beneficiaries since 1989, and he left his ex-girlfriend on?
Yes.
And now the account had since grown to $1 million, and the document said what the document said, and the assets are slated to go to his ex-girlfriend, even though she has since moved on and remarried. And his brothers have taken her to court, but it's hard to say how that will play out.
Yeah, I think I recall. Yeah, she was not eager to give up those assets.
Yes. Yeah, it would have been better if perhaps he had every couple of years dusted off that beneficiary designation and see if maybe it needed an update.
Yeah, take a look at that. Yeah, that's a very good example, actually. In turn, you may also have digital assets that you want to make sure are included in, the flow of assets and have those accounted for. Planning for your pets is really important. We did another webinar about solo agers, and this was a really big point that if you don't have someone obvious that will take care of your pets, you do want to make sure that you've named someone to care for them. And there are some resources you can use to organize your information. I know one of them is called Knockbox, which seems, it's basically a filing system and folders, which seems like something you could do on your own, but the fact is most people don't. And it allows you to organize financial information and your estate documents and things that you will have all in one place to help if something happens to you unexpectedly, as well as just during your 100-year lifespan. Is there another example of a resource like that?
Yes. So I was going to say that Knockbox, like the NOK stands for next of kin. So think of it as like where you would put everything that you would want your next of kin to have if they needed it. The other resource is the Grab and Go binder. And we could put the link to that, or you could just Google it. It's a binder so that somebody could just pick that up and go to the hospital and have information about insurance, prescriptions, doctors, and who needs to be called, the dog walker, things like that in the event of a medical crisis.
Excellent. And thinking about kind of along the lines of changes in how we age, there are different living situations that are developing. We'll say as boomers are aging, boomers do tend to kind of change things as they move into different stages of life, and aging is no exception. When it comes to housing, actually we just wrote and posted an article about co-housing, which is really a growing way that people live in communities, and they're popping up more and more. And it's basically people who have some affinity, people that you already know, deciding to join and buy housing in communities together, where you may share care on an ongoing basis, but so you wouldn't be in a situation where you are meeting new people and making new friends. There may be new people that you would meet, but in more typically in a continuing care community, the assisted living type places that exist today, you're kind of thrown in with, well, I shouldn't say thrown in. You are in a situation largely with people you may not know, and so you're in a position of kind of making friends again at age 70, which for some people is really appealing, and for others less so. So there are more situations that are developing where it's not as much of a change to move into co-housing, where unrelated people, have built communities intentionally. Other kinds of planned communities to age into. One of the things that's we're seeing more and more is that transportation options, which might be more limited, to shuttles or things like that, that the driverless cars have more of a place in planned communities because they don't do as well, though they're working out okay, I guess, in San Francisco right now, with some notable exceptions. But if there's a smaller area where driverless vehicles can navigate, that tends to be more successful. The same is true of other types of health benefits where they're more focused on fitness. In all of these communities, kind of more access to tennis courts, pickleball courts, and things that cold plunge pools, things that are known to have health benefits. One of the other bigger developments that we touched on earlier is smart home technology. And this can be anything from adding security, ring systems, and things like that to help older people age in place. A big risk is falling. And so there are sensors on floorboards to detect falls, and things that are meant to prevent this, or at least respond to it quickly, including just basic Apple Watches, which, as many of you know, will call for help if they detect that you have fallen. So, giving those as a gift to your parents, you might think you're kind of over technologizing them, but actually it's really practical. There are some more low tech things in terms of having less carpeting and outlets that people don't need to bend to get, or fewer shelves, again, to maximize falls if people are reaching for things. But overall, both technology and kind of known fall risks to be avoided are really helpful as people age in place. And then the last thing here is having health tests in homes. And we see this more and more as well, where you can test yourself and send the data directly to your medical team. And so things like blood pressure and glucose levels, and also there are things as sophisticated as kind of cardiac monitors that will say if you're in AFib, for example, or let doctors know about cardiac events. So that kind of testing, again, is really important to preventative care, which again leads to better outcomes and longevity.
Yeah, it was a great way to handle the fact that there's a caregiver shortage. When my dad was recovering from an acute situation, instead of having a visiting nurse come over every day, he took his own blood pressure, temperature, and weight every day and sent it to a nurse um,
Yeah,
who didn't have to travel.
that is much easier and much easier to be on top of changes. So kind of just to summarize what we have talked about today is to reinforce that the 100-year lifespan really is a reality and something we should be planning for. It's easier to not expect that and to think like, oh, I won't even live till 90. But I think we've made the case that there are developments that are really rapidly changing lifespan reality. And most importantly, we want to increase the health span, the amount of time that you are healthy and able to live independently and continue to work and travel, and that is being pushed out, and it will continue to be. What we are seeing among our clients is this change in how you balance your earning and learning and giving back and recharging, to start doing more planning for clients that takes into account that they may have a longer work life, but it won't be a straight line. They may stop and do other things for a while and then come back to it. All of these things really change the way we think about planning for clients, especially our midlife clients who have a lot of time to plan for this. But it's a different way to plan, and it's really critical that you start as early as you can. Did you want to add anything to that, Tanya?
Nope, excellent summary.
Thank you. So we do have some educational resources I want to point you to. We have a midlife financial planning checklist for clients who are kind of in that age range to really help you check off 7 critical areas where to see where a financial plan really should focus. We really encourage you to just take a look at that and see if there's anything there that we can help with, and at least maybe be a discussion points that we want to check in on. Oops.
So if you find yourself having more questions, schedule some time to talk with us. Our website is advisorygroupsf.com. And once you're on our main page, almost every page has a schedule a call button. Feel free to click on that, and you will be connected to one of our personal wealth advisors who would be happy to talk to you about your personal situation and ways that we could help.
We really appreciate you taking the time to review this with us today. I think it's really an exciting point for us to learn more about, and you'll see more from us on this topic over time. Thank you for joining us.